But no, it's kind of, it's got to be done. I mean, all the talking and everything, the training's done. You know, this is the part where you just want to get a hold of the guy and just fight. You know, this is the kind of, it's the last thing you want to see. You're sick of the sight of the opponent. You just.
My goodness, what a stare down we just got right now between reigning defending WBA featherweight champion of the world with a record of 23 wins, 0 losses, 1 draw, standing at just 5'2", the wrecking ball, Nick Ball, fighting in his home country, hometown of Liverpool, UK, going up against former 2-division world champion, WBA, WBC super bantamweight world champion, former WBC interim featherweight champion, former WBC featherweight champion of the world with a record of 26 wins, 2 losses, and 1 draw. Both of those wins coming to one man in Stephen Coolboy Fulton. Brandon Figueroa. Yes. The first thing that I want to point out, which we're going to get into, about this win, about the face-offs, was what a size advantage Brandon Figueroa has going into this fight against Nick Ball. If you've never seen Nick Ball fight before, or have ever seen him face off with anybody, don't be surprised. He stands at 5'2". In this featherweight division where you got guys standing at 5'6", 5'7", 5'8", 5'9", and 5'10". Ray Vargas, the man he had a draw with, was 5'10", taller than the fighter he's going up against tomorrow in Brandon Figueroa. He's always at a disadvantage when it comes to size, but not when it comes to punching power, volume, movement, angles, ring IQ, skills. It's 23-0-1. Nobody that has had a size advantage has yet to prove that they are better than the young, small 5'2" Nick Ball. Now, I've assessed this fight many, many times. I've watched tape over and over again on both fighters. I want to give you guys my quick breakdown after watching the weigh-ins. First of all, I thought Nick Ball looked absolutely confident. I thought he won the weigh-ins, but one thing I will say is Brandon Figueroa looked to be in the best shape of his career. Brandon Figueroa looked the most solidest, most rippedest that I've ever seen him in his career. I think he knows this is a huge opportunity for him, a chance to become a world champion again. Now, I want to break down Brandon Figueroa's career. You're talking about a guy who was known for having absolutely relentless pressure, great jab, skills behind it, could fight in the orthodox southpaw position, was able to be hit numerous amount of times, but continue to put forward pressure, relentless volume in all of his fights, push you up against the ropes, sometimes smother his punches. But I would say before the Jesse Magdaleno fight, the style that he imposed on his fighters was great. I think it wasn't up until Stephen Fulton 2 that he started to look a little different. You know, when he lost to Stephen Fulton in 2021 for the first time, he's only lost to this guy 2 times, one person in his career. The first fight was a lot closer. You had Brandon Figueroa, who was coming forward with that relentless pressure and volume, beautiful jab, putting punches behind it, making it rough in there, pushing you up against the ropes, overhand rights, overhand lefts, yes, at times smothering his punches, but not as bad as he does now. Up until the Jesse Magdaleno fight, going into the Stephen Fulton 2 fight, both of these taking place in 2025, he's looked like a completely different fighter. Now, I want to talk about his activity all the way up until 2021. A very active fighter, but as you can see after that loss to Stephen Coolboy Fulton, fights what? 1 time in 2022, 1 time in 2023, 1 time in 2024, and 2 times in 2025. One of those being a loss to Stephen Coolboy Fulton, lost his WBC interim title, and also a win to Joet Gonzalez in his most previous fight. I've noticed the difference in styles when it comes to Brandon Figueroa. It seems like he's began to slow down. The Stephen Fulton fight was really smothering his punches. Didn't look like the way he did in the first fight. Wasn't being as relentless. Was trying to box with Stephen Coolboy Fulton. Horrible game plan. And when he did start to bring the forward pressure and volume, he kept lunging, and every single hook that he threw, he was falling with it. Before, he was a balanced fighter that would be able to let off 6-punch combinations. Now, he pushes you up against the ropes. Is not utilizing that jab like he used to. Comes in throwing left hooks, right hooks. But every time he throws these left hook and right hooks, he's falling off balance. He's lunging with the punches. It looks like he's smothering and has worse footwork than he's ever had. Now, I bring up the inactivity because the style that he has is one of those styles that you have to be active in the ring and not have been out for a whole goddamn year, right? I see a big difference from when he was active to inactive. Now, in 2025, he's fought 2 times. Against Joet Gonzalez, he's starting to look a little bit like his normal self. This is going to be the 3rd time that he's fought in basically a year. That could definitely help him compared to coming off a year layoff, being a little rusty in the ring, to having 3 fights in 1 year. That 3rd fight, you're definitely going to be way more polished, skillful than you were coming off a whole year. And not just that, but fighting 1 time a year for 3 years in a row, as Brandon Figueroa did. The problem that I see with Brandon Figueroa going up against Nick Ball is right now, 2025, Brandon Figueroa, like I said, isn't the same as he was back in 2021, 2022, 2023. If we get 2021 Brandon Figueroa against Nick Ball, I think he has a good chance of winning this fight, being the bigger, stronger man. Gonna make this an absolute war, throw volume, and possibly catch somebody like Nick Ball. We know for a fact he ain't gonna go in there with a Ray Vargas or Sam Goodman type of mentality. He's not boxing on the back foot, using his jab and using his movement to move around the ring, which I would say is actually a good game plan against somebody like Nick Ball, because those have been his toughest fights. You had Raymond Ford, who I thought could have taken advantage of that, but didn't. Was trying to bang it out with Nick Ball and got outbanged, got out-hit. He should have stuck to the Ray Vargas game plan, stick and move, even though it's not the most exciting. That's how you beat somebody like Nick Ball, especially when you have the height and reach advantage and size advantage, okay? So, we know for a fact Brandon Figueroa is going to come forward in this fight. The question is he going to be smothering his punches the way he did against Stephen Fulton in that 2nd fight? If he does, Nick Ball is going to capitalize on this every single time and counter the crap out of him. Nick Ball right now, yes, he is severely outsized against Brandon Figueroa, but right now is the better, more skillful fighter. I would say hits harder, has better stamina, I would say, from what we've been seeing in his last couple fights, compared to Brandon Figueroa, a guy who in his last 2 fights hasn't looked the same at all. Never been an issue when it comes to stamina for Brandon Figueroa, but stylistically, he hasn't been the same fighter. I look at Figueroa and I tell myself, if he comes into this fight with relentless volume of pressure and doesn't smother his goddamn shots, then he could win this fight. But Nick Ball utilizes something that I myself find very, very important going up in this fight against Brandon Figueroa, and that is angles. Angles. Brandon Figueroa smothers his punches so much nowadays. Throws a 1 right hand and is off balance compared to what he used to do back in the days. And because of that, if Nick Ball can step on the outside foot of Brandon Figueroa, pivot, unleash a combination, a fast combination, 3 to 4 punches, I can see him countering the how and BTAing Brandon Figueroa if the footwork is not there for Brandon. If he's there, if the legs are there, the volume, the chin, the pressure, he can beat Nick Ball. But I don't see that happening. I see Nick Ball being too skillful. I see him being too relentless. Even though he is very, very undersized, I think the body of work that I've seen from him, the skills that I've seen from him, the movement that I've seen from him, the jab that I've seen from him is definitely going to give Brandon Figueroa a problem. Therefore, I'm picking Nick Ball to win this fight. But if we get into the 6th, 7th, 8th round and Nick Ball starts to slow down and Brandon Figueroa, a fighter who seems to continue to pick up as round and round goes on, if he doesn't get tired and has the volume and pressure, I think he could start really making these fights and these rounds close with somebody like Nick Ball, who we know is going to come forward. We know both of these fighters are going to come forward. It's just a matter of who's going to be throwing more punches, landing more punches, and has better angles, better movement. I think toe for toe, Brandon Figueroa, 2023, 22, 2021, would be an absolute live dog going into this fight. I think he still is. But 2025 Brandon Figueroa is going to have to show me a lot more going into this fight against Nick Ball. I say his biggest advantage is his size. So impose it. Impose your will. And don't be scared, because you are the bigger man. Has anybody ever knocked out Brandon Figueroa? No. So do I think Nick Ball's going to do it? I don't know. But at the end of the day, I'm picking Nick Ball to win this fight, man. Let me know what you guys think. This is the MMA Boxing Addicts channel reporting to you, and I'm out.